IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashton Doctor, your habit coach. And today we have Dr. Nikhil Latte for the second time. And in the first episode, we spoke about what is physiotherapy and why do we need physiotherapy in our life. This episode, we're going to specialize on people who are very active, who like doing different sports, who like doing different physical activities, and what are the different issues that doctor sees with them. This conversation started because I'd gone to meet doctor a couple of weeks ago and we were chatting and we were talking about how he sees the most number of injuries, especially during the marathon season. And I said, that is something that is so important because I stay on Carter Road and I see all the people running on Carter Road with getting ready for the marathon. And there are so many different gates and you can practically see somebody's pain about to take place. So Dr. Nikhil, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, doctor, when we were having this discussion about people who are training for the marathon and how you see so many injuries, especially leading up to the marathon and after, tell me, what is it that's happening at this point of time? Why is it that it's a particular phase?
I think people just push themselves too hard. I mean, if you think about it, why do you run? Right? Most people would pick up running because of their fitness, because they want to lose weight, because they want to get fitter, because their neighbors are doing it, their friends are doing it, and they just want to join in and have a good time on a Sunday morning, go for a long run, have some good breakfast after, come home, chill out. So people somewhere lose sight of why they entered in the first place, and it becomes incredibly competitive. So they carry their competitive nature from work into play. And in doing so, they ignore the basics. So I've had quite a few patients who are in the corporate world who sleep by 11:30 in the evening or 12, wake up at 4:30, go for a run, spend 10 hours, 12 hours in their highly stressful corporate jobs, again sleep at 11:30, wake up at 4:30, go for another run. And then on Sunday, they don't relax. They go for a long run. And on Monday, they say they're resting, but they're still working 12 hours in a highly stressful environment. So where's the time for the body to relax and recover? Right? So if you don't follow a few of the basics, like I mentioned last time, getting enough rest, getting enough water, getting enough protein, getting enough vitamin D, and sleep. Sleep is extremely, extremely important. Then you end up pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Your body is doing something it is not ready to do, and you get injured. I would like to give you two examples at this point. First example is regarding a person who came to me. He's a patient. He's been running for 10 years. So the first 9 years, and he does the same races, same speed. He says, I'm doing this for fitness. I'm doing this for fun. I'm not going to push myself. Excellent. 9 years he ran. He was completely pain-free, doing the same races in the same time. This year, same races, same time, but he's in pain. So what changed? It can't be because of running. He's not changed anything in his running. So I just probed a bit deeper and I found out that 6 months before, he had made partner in his firm. So his sleeping time went down from 6.5 hours each night to 5.5 hours each night. And that sleep deficit kept mounting until all of his stability muscles were sore. His running muscles were not tired. They weren't painful because he hadn't changed anything in his running. But his postural muscles, his back, his shoulder, his shin, they had become painful. And that was because these muscles which support your posture the whole day were not recovering as well as they should be. And fatigue was being carried over day after day after day.
So interesting.
Yeah, so that was a lifestyle change that triggered all of this. And the second thing is when people are not ready for the challenges that they accept, where they go through being able to run 5 kilometers to 21 to 42 way too rapidly. I want to give an extreme example of when people go from running with shoes to bare feet. Okay, can you do it? Of course you can. but it needs time. Okay, because when your feet are supported by shoes versus when they aren't, the structures in your foot have to now absorb these extreme stresses. Okay, now can your body absorb it given enough time? Yes. So how long? It takes at least a year and a half for your tissues to become capable. And now I'll explain why that happens, because it doesn't happen that the cells of the ligament in your foot will suddenly be made up of steel. No. When the current cells die off and are replaced by the next generation, they are slightly tougher than the first one. The third generation will be tougher than the second. The fourth generation will be tougher than the third. And over a period of successive generations, the ligaments become strong enough to take the load. So it doesn't happen instantly, and it can't go from being weak in the first generation to being super strong in the second. Your body doesn't work like that. There are always incremental improvements. And if you don't allow enough turnover time, if you don't allow enough time for these tissues to mature and become strong enough to take the load of what you're presenting it with, which is running bare feet, you are going to end up with some kind of issues. Now, this is an extreme case, but if you think back to people who are used to running 2 to 5 kilometers and suddenly decide to take part in a half marathon, similar problems ensue wherein their body tissues are not strong enough to take the load because not enough time has been given for them to adapt.
Fascinating. So giving yourself that time is extremely important. I think also along with that is the goal setting that comes into this, right? Getting your right goals, getting the right kind of coaching for what you're going to be doing is very, very essential. So
Yes.
to put these points in perspective, one was getting competitive and forgetting why you started. I think that
Yes.
is probably 75% of the issues that come up in not just running, but in all the kinds of fitness that becomes competitive. Right.
Yes.
And I think that is an important thing to realizing, that why are you turning it into something competitive? I remember I was
Yes.
talking to a psychologist about running once, and she was saying that, did you know, Ashton, that most people take up running after they've had a dramatic life event? So,
Yes, I've noticed
right?
that.
So I just had a divorce, started running. I just lost my job, started running. And psychologically, it is about running away from your problem. So
Yep.
that's how she started putting it. And I was like, that's fascinating. But it is also about knowing that this is what I'm doing it for, and not suddenly
Yeah.
saying that I need to do it and beat my friend at it. Correct?
Yeah.
And I think that prevents a dramatic amount of injuries. Love this point. The second thing is that you're saying that when you are doing these kind of what we call weekend warriors, right, where you're doing something much hard and tagda over the weekend physically, but what is happening during the rest of the week? If you're not putting in the recovery during the rest of the week, and if you're still having a very stressful job, that weekend warrior is not necessarily doing something good for you. It could actually have a problematic effect, and it's not something that it's the way to think about it is not you're doing something good for yourself, right? It
Yeah.
could actually cause more harm.
Yeah,
Loving
you're
these points.
overburdening your body. And
Overburdening your
depending
body.
on how hard you push yourself, you can land up in trouble.
Correct.
Um, it goes the other way as well. So I've had a few very experienced, very good runners who even have ran the Comrades race in South Africa, which is a 90-kilometer running race. With runners that also do Comrades, there's a disturbing trend that I saw. So they start training in July, okay, and they train all the way till the Mumbai Marathon in January. And after they've done the full marathon in January, they do some kind of an ultra running competition in February and March, and then they keep running through the summer, and then finally in June they do the 90-kilometer Comrades race. They take 3 weeks off, and from July their next season starts. Now, where's the off season? Where's the time for your body to replenish and recover? Where's the time for you to course correct? Like if you have weakness on one leg compared to the other, and therefore one leg is weight bearing more than the other, where is the time to do that course correction, to improve on your technique? Maybe you want to improve your diet, but because you're running 65 kilometers on a Sunday, you're not able to do that. So I found that people who run that obsessively without taking due care about getting an off season, doing course corrections, doing improvements, after a couple of such cycles, or at the most 3 of such cycles where they're running continuously from July to June, July to June, July to June, something breaks, unfortunately.
Correct.
And then they are forced to take a break for 6 months. That's not recommended. That's not something they want. That's not something nice to hear. It's not a good phase in their life when they are suddenly having to take a break for 6 months.
Yeah.
So I would, anyone who's listening, I would highly suggest that please put a 2 month of off season in your training routine. I mean, even elite athletes don't compete through the year. They have breaks, they have off seasons, they have pre-seasons, they have during season. I mean, you're not an elite athlete. And you still want to push yourself that hard, and you're not that young. You're in your 30s or 40s. You're not in your 20s. Something will break if you don't take care of it.
Doctor, that was like a reality check for so many of us, right? It was like hearing the harsh truth and saying, yes, you're right. Because on the Habit Coach podcast, we talk to a lot of people who've gone through their rock bottom moments. We have a segment where we talk about celebrating our rock bottom moments. That means when we are at our lowest, how do we feel about that? And for most athletes, they come and tell us that it's their injury. I injured myself like this, and then all the stuff that I was training for went out the window. How do you mentally recover from that and physically recover from that? Similarly, for our weekend warriors as well, injury is one of the most painful things that happens. Mentally, how from becoming so active, now you're passive, right? What do you do?
And more than that, for a lot of them, the activity they do on the weekend or the run that they do with their mates on the weekend is an escape. It's their me time. It's their pressure release valve from all the stress at work. And you take that away and it does hurt.
Correct.
In more than one way.
Absolutely. And, this comes to the next part. What are the other things that you see as activities that people do that create this kind of an effect? Like one is running, where you see people getting injured very, very easily. What other activities do you see people getting injured maximum with?
Doing these classes, online classes, currently, gym sessions which are done virtually, where the trainer can only see you from one angle and can't really make out if your weight is tilting this way or that way. That I have seen does cause injuries in the current scenario. And if you take the last 1 year away, the COVID year away, then I've seen primarily, people who just push themselves too hard, whether in the gym, whether in the in their sport. That is when I see the most injuries happen. And I hark back to what I said in our last podcast, wherein respect your body, listen to it. If you're going to push yourself, you are going to create trouble for yourself, and good for my business, but not really good for you.
Correct. When I was thinking about it, when I was listening to what you were saying, one question was coming up saying that is being a weekend warrior bad? And I was saying, no, I don't think you should be thinking about it that way, in case some of us are thinking about it that way. It is about understanding what we can possibly do to become a Tagda weekend warrior. What are the things that people should be doing apart from the recovery that we spoke about in our first episode? And if you haven't heard that, please listen to that episode. But apart from that, what are things that people should be doing to make sure that they can still, enjoy the push, feel that challenge, be with their friends, and still not injure themselves?
Respect your limits. Respect your limits. I mean, when you're playing with your mates, respect the limits that, okay, you can do so much and not more. And if you do want to push your limits, then during the week, you have to put in some time. Let's take the example of a footballer, okay, who only plays on the weekend. Now, what happens when you play on the weekend only is that your body is not ready for it. And if your body is not ready for it, then you really can't do all those activities. You really can't do all those movements and do them carefully and properly. Like, for example, you see the ball in front of you, you want to reach the ball, and it's a case of the mind willing, the body not willing. Where mentally, you're right where you need to be to kick a goal, but your feet are not there. right? Because your body just doesn't know those movements well. So last time we also spoke about general and specific warm-ups, right? The specific warm-up was to make sure that your body listens to your mind and does those specific movements well. So if you don't have those agility program in your brain properly installed, right, your feet won't move, and then there's a chance that you could twist something, turn something, end up with ACL tears or calf strains or ankle twists or something like that. So if you want to be competitive in your weekend sport, you need to do a few basic stuff during the week, like maintain proper strength, maintain proper balance, do these agility drills, so that when you run and twist and turn and jump on a Sunday, it's not something that confuses your body, and it's not like, what is this? You know what it is. You're aware of it and you're able to do it correctly. It is rightly said that practice makes perfect. I mean, it's not for nothing that we have that idiom.
Right. And one is practice makes perfect, but the second is creating a foundation and setting that foundation in stone. Very often we have a foundation, but it's a loose foundation. We got the basics right. We know how to maybe run. We know how to stop. We don't necessarily know how to change direction, like you said, how to quickly hop and move to a side, how to get out of the way. All those things are important to start practicing and getting into it.
Yeah. And what happens, another issue with weekend warriors is, let's face it, we are slightly on the heavier side. Okay. So our fat versus muscle percentage is opposite of elite athletes. It's always true.
Correct.
Right? So the problem is you're carrying a lot of mass with not enough braking power. So if you're hurtling down a slope in your car and your brakes are not good enough, you're screwed. So if your car is heavy and the brakes are not strong enough, you're going to land up with a crash.
Correct.
So which is why you need to control your speed, because if you're going too fast, okay, josh mein hosh kho baitoge, and if you go too fast and your muscles don't have the braking power to stop you, turn direction, accelerate again, then you're going to twist something.
Absolutely. What is it in this regard that elite athletes have that weekend warriors don't? Is it the ability to reach that 100% that weekend warriors don't? Is it the ability to know when that 100% is or where the limit is? Is there something like that is
No,
the difference?
It's just time. It's just time. The amount of time weekend warriors devote to their sport versus elite athletes. So if you think about it, if elite athletes, say in a sport like boxing, they are putting in 11 hours a week, 10 sessions a week, okay, of 2.5 to 3 hours each session. So that means you're talking about 30 hours of work, okay, per week being done for their sport. Whereas an amateur athlete or a weekend warrior might put in 5 hours in total over the weekend. So if you're putting in 5 hours and you're 40 years of age versus you're putting 30 hours and you're 20 years of age, and you can see why there's a big difference.
Correct.
And people don't understand the kind of difference there is between amateur and professional athletes. And that sometimes becomes a little sore point for me. Because amateur runners will come to me and say, those guys are able to eat this, drink this, and still they are able to run. They do these kind of distances. Why can't we? And I'm like, you're not putting in the time. Okay, there's a massive gap. So, for example, in my laboratory, I do something called as a VO2 max test. Okay, I don't know if you or your listeners are aware of that. But basically what it is I make a person run on the treadmill till they collapse. Yes, I am sadistic in that sense. Okay, it's good fun making them, torturing them to their limit. And as they're running harder and harder, they wear a mask and I'm sampling the gases going in and out of their body. So every single breath, I'm able to measure the oxygen going in and coming out, the carbon dioxide going in and coming out. And therefore, I accurately know how much oxygen their body is using and how much carbon dioxide it is producing with every single breath. And by that, I'm able to calculate, the total volume of oxygen the body is consuming, total volume of carbon dioxide it is generating, and it tells me a lot of things. So when I do a VO2 max test, and why is VO2 max important? Again, I'll explain it simply. What is the difference between a 800cc engine versus a 2000cc engine? What do you think?
Larger capacity, that means more air and fuel going in.
right? So 2000cc engine is able to burn more fuel and therefore produce more power output, right? So it is able to burn more fuel using more oxygen and produce a greater power output. So if I know the amount of oxygen your body is using, I can tell you the size of your engine.
Beautiful.
Right? And that's a simple way to explain why VO2 max is important. So I had a elite high level amateur marathon runner who does a full marathon in 3 hours and 30 minutes or so, 42 kilometers in 3 hours and 30 minutes or so, and that's a very, very good performance. And their VO2 max was somewhere around 55 milliliters per kg per minute. Okay, forget the units, it was 55. Okay, now if you check elite athletes, okay, anything less than 70 and you probably won't make the cut.
That's the gap.
That's the gap.
Wow.
That is the gap.
It is just the time that they put in and the condition that the body is in because of that time.
And the years of effort. So a 25-year-old marathon runner, right, has put in at least 10 to 12 years in running. Whereas a 45-year-old amateur runner has barely put in 5 years. So there's a difference in the amount of time, number of hours. So there is a crude rule of thumb where they say that you need to put in 10,000 hours to become a master at something, right? So if you think about it, if you're putting in 30 hours every week, okay, you're going to hit your 10,000 ka milestone a lot faster than somebody who's putting in 5 hours.
Yeah.
And age is on your side, so your intensity will be higher. You'll recover faster. You can push harder. There's a big difference. I mean, the numbers tell a story. I'll tell you another number. So when I was with the men's boxing team in Patiala, it was a slow day. This is a decade ago. And we decided to see who can throw the maximum number of punches in 10 seconds. Yeah, it was that kind of a day, right? So
I love it.
Yeah. There was no competition on the horizon. They were going through the motions. So we were like, okay, let's check. So then the guy who won that day, okay, was able to throw 74 punches in 10 seconds on a punching bag.
How?
That is how quick they are. Within 1 second, they can easily churn out 6 to 7 high power punches. And even one of that punch will make you and me sit down.
75 in 10 seconds.
74. So we
seconds.
couldn't count it.
Yeah.
We counted the number of rights he threw and doubled it up. So it was 37 rights, so that means 74 punches in 10 seconds.
Fair enough.
The guy who came second was able to throw in 66. So you can imagine these guys are incredibly quick. Your camera can't capture how fast they are with their hands. And there is such a huge difference between amateur performance and elite level performance and what their bodies are capable of. And unless you have, I mean, if you ever get the opportunity to see an elite athlete train, just go there, stand in the corner, be a fly on the wall, and I promise you, you'll be thrilled. You'll be thrilled to see their performance, right? And but there is a huge gap, and by sitting outside or watching stuff on TV, we don't actually understand how fast it is. Like, you never understand how fast an F1 car actually goes while you watch on TV. And you don't understand the kind of speed an Usain Bolt generates.
Correct.
Okay? It's just not easy to fathom what their bodies are doing when you're watching it on screen. But when you train, you'll realize there's a big gap between the two.
Correct. And we see that and we try and imitate that. And I think that is where we make a mistake.
That is where you make a mistake. You're not at the same level, not even close. You're not in the same playing field.
I think this is such a big learning for us because, you know, like for example, CrossFit, right? We see so many people, we see CrossFit games and we're like, oh, these guys are just doing that snatch like it's like nothing. I'll also be able to do that. Khada. And, as soon as we start putting that number and become competitive about it, we start losing like you said, reason we are doing it, but also the purpose behind it, which is like to condition your body, make it stronger, not make it weak by injuring it.
Yeah.
That second part is important. And I've, worked with some clients who obviously not elite level athletes, but because they were pushing themselves, their performance started dropping. And they couldn't figure out why their performance was dropping. And they kept pushing more and they kept going down more. And they said that the only way of getting out of this is even more hard work. So they put more of it. And you see them going down this spiral, right?
Spiral.
Correct?
Yeah.
The important aspect is what we were talking about, which is that understanding that this is what's happening to my body. How do I stop?
Yeah.
And I've always felt stronger so much after like a 1 week break, or
Yeah, absolutely.
you come back more tagda, and you can actually feel that difference.
Yeah.
Superb. I think there's so much that we can talk about on these aspects, and I would love to have you again on the podcast and discuss these things, because one is injury prevention, and I think that's so important, because losing that drive of why you started because of an injury is one of the worst things that can happen. And I would love to have you back and discuss about injury and how to get out of injuries, because I know many people listening might have gone through their phase of injuries, might have not just exercise related injury but some other injury that they're nursing in their body. And like you said, mechanic for the body, this is so important of getting that right. Dr. Nikhil, anything else that you wanted to say that we missed out on when discussing about sports, weekend warriors, etc.?
I think when you're a weekend warrior, like we said, you have to remember to find the joy in it and not let it become too competitive. I mean, it's okay. Chhoot gaya to chhoot gaya, big deal. Your life and your livelihood doesn't depend on it. You have to learn to chill a bit. It's fine. You have not hit the correct time. It's fine. You had to miss a competition. It's fine. Your life doesn't depend on it. You just need to relax and take it. You have to remember to place recovery front and center. That is important whether you're 20, 40, 60 or 80 years old. That you're not excused from my checklist of 7 about which we spoke in the former podcast. Okay, you're not excused from that. And secondly, you have to pay attention to get your body ready for whatever you're doing. So that general and specific warm-ups are important. And if you do want to get a bit competitive, okay, there's nothing wrong in that. If you do want to get a bit competitive and yes, want to post better timings, it gives you a high, gives you that adrenaline rush, and the number of likes on your Insta page give you a big thrill, no problem, go for it. But put in the time, put in the effort. And don't expect miracles.
Yes.
That is very important. Don't expect miracles. Put in the time, put in the effort, and be patient. You can't go from running 5 kilometers to 21 to 42 to 90 in 2 years' time. Because if you do that, then, Pro Physio Mumbai, you can figure out where I am, come and see me. I'll be more than happy. It's not recommended.
I love it. So important. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How can people get in touch with you? What should they be? Where should they follow you and ask questions, etc.?
So you can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm on Pro Physio Mumbai. That's PROPHYSIO and Mumbai. And I also have a website, prophysio.co.in. So any of those things, you can get in touch with me. You can send me messages and I'll reply to it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Nikhil. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashtin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. Let me tell you a little bit about what happened on the IVM Podcast Network this week. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus was joined by Irfan Pabani, who is an old friend of his. They talk about the rich flavors of Indian food and Parsi food specifically. He was also joined by author and historian William Dalrymple. They discuss literature, history, and the culture of the Indian subcontinent. And let me give you a few quick things to check out. Chuck, aka Deepak Gopal Krishnan of Simplified and the Origin of Things fame, has Rohan Joshi, formerly of AIB, on his show. Also on this round is on me. Gautam Purohit of Thakur's Bhojnalaya was on. On the note, Maruk Inayat talks about the cabinet reshuffle. And do check out Global Victoria Tech Talks. We talk about the booming gaming and edutech industries in Australia. Do follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram to keep up what's going on the network. And I'd like to finally thank our sponsors on the network this week, Cred, CET, and Global Victoria. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with Postcards from Nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.